Mission Debrief. We're playing every mission of the mainline Halo video game series in chronological order, discussing our experiences and sprinkling in a little lore along the way. If you'd like to play along and have your thoughts read on the show, email us at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. We'll be playing the last mission from Halo 2, The Great Journey, on the next episode. This episode, we're debriefing High Charity from Halo 2. I'm your host, Colin Perkins, alongside David Arnold.
Hello, everybody.
And Krysta Brown.
Don't lie to me, Chief.
Gravemind. On the last mission, Gravemind transported the Arbiter just outside of Delta Halo's control room in order to chase down the Index before it could be used to fire the Halo. Thel and a team of elites found themselves in the middle of the Great Schism as they fought their way through a brute stronghold on their way to intercept Tartarus, who's got Miranda. Current mission. So this mission, we are Master Chief. We're Master Chief again. He just misses Truth as he and his cronies head for the Dreadnought. John takes a little chat with Mercy, the dying Mercy, and learns that Truth is headed for Earth. Cortana tells Chief to stop Truth while she intends to stay behind to ensure the Flood don't follow. The date of the game is November 3rd, 2552. The cutscene is kind of just what I described. That's a lot of the information that we're getting here, and then we'll get to the end cutscene. If you've already played, you kind of know what happens here. But any big takeaways from this initial cutscene before we kick off, David? How are you feeling right now?
It's kind of meh. There's not much to the cutscene. There's an interesting, I suppose, dialogue between John. Well, very brief between John and Mercy. He doesn't seem to really care about Mercy at all, but he does. I don't think he meant to kill him, but when he pulls this blood fort off, Mercy just dies. So I guess he's just like an old man anyway. Well, he's like a really old prophet anyway, so I think probably he just gave out or something, anything else. But I kind of tried to mess with his body afterwards. You can't really interact with it.
Oh, you did?
To punch it out.
That's disgusting, David. That's
I just
so
want to see if
gross.
anything would happen, but I was like, no, he just lies there. It's a quick intro to the mission.
Yeah, if you recall, last time we were Chief, that's when we're kind of in the middle of the Great Schism, and you're in that big room, the big mausoleum room, and that giant battle that's going on. Then you kind of run off through one of the doors, and then that's when they kind of cut to Truth. It must not be Tartarus with him. It must be just another brute that's with him.
It was Tartarus.
Oh, it was?
Yeah,
so they must have split there then.
He sent him away to activate the ring while Truth escapes.
Okay.
But an interesting realization from this cutscene is that the Chief was just a diversion this whole time on High Charity so that the Flood could crash their ships into it.
So say that again. Chief was the diversion from Gravemind, you mean?
Yeah, Gravemind was using Chief to distract the Covenant so that he could land the Flood on High Charity.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Because Cortana mentions it that way, which is interesting because the Gravemind put both Arbiter and Chief where the Index is. Because the Index goes from High Charity to where Arbiter is.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So Gravemind already knew that, because once Chief lands, sees the Index, he has kind of trust, I guess, in Gravemind. Like a shaky relationship with him, because he did what he said he was going to do.
Right.
And so does Arbiter at that point. But then, instantly later in the mission, we find out that the Gravemind has just used him to get their forces on High Charity and take it over, because I think we discussed this in the last episode. Everyone there on High Charity are just sitting ducks.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's gotta be terrifying. When you're in this opening area here, you get attacked by some Flood right away, and once you kind of clear the area a bit, it's not too much going on. But then if you just kind of take a look at the city, this is the closest I think we are to the city. You
and
saw
the Dreadnought,
Yeah, we saw it off in the distance in one of the previous missions. But it really gives you the scale of the city and how big it is. If you kind of actually look down, you can kind of see this just giant round city plan that goes around the Dreadnought. It's pretty impressive. It makes you feel like there's a lot of, people is a weird thing to say because of the Covenant, but it's just, you know, a lot of souls are down there that are going to be consumed by the flood. It's pretty nuts.
I think one of the reasons why Halo 2 has shined so much as a re-release and, you know, the updated graphics is because Halo 2 have these giant set pieces.
Yeah.
That do so well with the better graphics.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they put a lot of time. This game already has expands the universe so much. It's very lore heavy, and then they made all the cutscenes way sexier, and then they also shoved in all these terminals that weren't there before. So this game is just, there's so much in this game. That's why this, you know, there's so many missions, and I feel like this is probably one of the longer series that we've had, and probably will have, on Mission Debrief. Is just so much involved in Halo 2.
Well, there's just so much revealed. This is just the reason for Halo 2 is just to build the lore. Mm-hmm. And it just sets the series up to be super action-y in the next installment. Right.
Yep, absolutely. The music was kind of upbeat. Did you guys pick up on that? It's like the female oohing going on in the background.
Yeah.
With like some electronic beats in the background. You know, it made me feel more positive than maybe the dire situation that you're encountering. But, you know, I mean, I like it.
You get some creepy music vibes later on. When you get to, like, the heavily flood-infested areas, it goes creepy.
Yeah.
Also, we forgot to mention Cortana's staying on High Charity.
Go ahead.
She is wanting to stall the launch sequence of the Dreadnought possibly explode High Charity with the Inamber-Clad's reactors in order to destroy Halo in case the Halo ring firing sequence does start.
Yes.
And she is way more comfortable actually being on High Charity. So she tells John to go do your thing. I'll be with you while you're on High Charity, but once you go, you're gone. Mm-hmm. And I'm here.
Yeah, because doesn't he goes to grab her, right? Take her
he goes to grab her, and she says no.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I'm here to detonate the Autumn, just in case.
And that's her sense of duty, I guess, at this point, right? You know, she knows that she'll probably be, you know, I guess killed along with this, but she's ensuring the survival of humanity by doing that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Cortana could possibly, because of how AIs work, she could possibly find something else to kind of transfer herself to. Like, set the reactor, set a countdown, transfer herself to something else, and get out of there. Like, she could transfer herself onto a ship that's evacuating, and no one would be of the wiser that she's there.
She did a lot in Halo CE, right? Like, she kind of did the fracture stuff, or is that all in the books?
That's all in the books, yeah.
It's all in the books, okay. The fragments of her, right. Well,
yeah,
maybe, because we talked about it, I think, in Reach a little bit.
Yeah, so AIs can separate themselves into different, like, they're basically making clones of them. They're basically making clones of themselves that are less efficient, but can still do stuff separately from the main entity.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But they're not as efficient. So.
Lots of AI information, but I guess it's important to keep that in mind as we're moving forward, because that's an option, you know, as she's decided to stick around.
Yeah, and and from her point of view, if she doesn't have to blow up High Charity, she'll be fine. She'll just hide in the computers.
That's true, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, either way, she can get out of there and she's fine. Mm-hmm. It just means when is she going to reunite with John, kind of thing.
Yep, exactly. I love how the infection not the infection forms, the carrier forms, were they on top of the crashed Pelican for you guys?
So yeah,
they're just chilling up there.
Chilling, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I actually saw them. There's a second Pelican that flies over you, and they follow the back of that and land on top.
Oh, okay.
So they didn't just appear. They actually get dropped in by another Pelican that flies off.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. It happens like straight away. Like if you weren't looking for it, you might miss it. Like.
Okay, yeah, because the very end of this cutscene is just Pelicans crashing and floods spilling out. The other interesting thing about the skybox is you can see the Inamber-Clad just crushed into like some giant pillar thing. Yeah,
that's cool.
Just a flame, and I kind of flip back and forth to the old graphics. At that point, the new graphics do a lot better job, kind of helping you understand, it's not like the side of High Charity. There's like a big pillar thing. I don't know how to describe it.
It's probably
tower,
actually a
like a
support
tower.
pillar. Yeah.
Could be. Yeah, could be. But now it's flood killing time, so maybe we can just talk about what we use. I stole that energy sword, and then one of the flood had a shotgun, so that's kind of my killer combo for flood in this game. What did you guys use, David? What did you go with?
Something very similar. I pretty much shotgunned it the whole map. I did have a pulse carbine for most of it. Plasma carbine. No, what am I talking about? Yeah, carbine.
Yeah.
The carbine for most of it. Near the very end, I killed a flood with a rocket launcher and picked that up, and I used that till the end. They only had about 4 shots in it, but it was actually pretty useful in some kind of areas. 'Cause I'm playing on normal, so it's not too hard. But
Right. Krysta, what do you
That was
got?
it.
What's your...
I,
your
of course,
combo?
picked up the energy sword as soon as I got one, and then
Yeah.
switched it to a shotgun later in the game. And I also had a battle rifle because later in the game there's some buggers. So it's nice to be able
Yeah.
to kind of shoot
Yeah.
those out of the sky a little bit.
Yep. Good point. So we kind of clear this platform. If you go to the other side, did you notice that there's a phantom over there that it looks like you can go inside of it, but you can't?
no, yeah, I know what you're talking about. There is one.
I've
still
never
docked in
been
there,
over
yeah.
to the other side, yeah.
Yeah, it's just parked there, and it looks like you're like, hey, maybe I could pop in this thing, but nope, no dice.
I guess it doesn't matter which way you do go. We're talking about the big room that kind of has these weird, like, teleporty bridges that are circular. Like, they kind of follow a weird circle, right? That one?
No,
You're way
I'm
too
still
far
back
ahead.
yeah, you're
Too
further
far?
along.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're right at the beginning of the mission still. So,
Oh, okay.
right where you get dropped off, there's a bunch of flood, there's a crash pelican in the middle. You can go onto the other side. I don't know if there's any flood over there, but there's like another platform over there. That's where the phantom is. If you go into the pelican in the middle, there's some health packs in there, which is kind of cool.
And health packs aren't actually, like, a thing in Halo 2 either.
Nope. Yeah, exactly.
Nope.
So,
So
just
maybe
kind
it's
of
a
nod.
callback
I liked that
to
they kept them
CE?
there from the. Yeah, that's what I liked. They kept them there from CE.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a cool nod, I
Just
think.
the design.
So yeah, I guess we haven't mentioned it yet. This is a short mission. There's not a
Yeah,
lot
it's
to it.
super short. I just booked it through this
Yeah.
mission because I just don't like dealing with the flood.
Right. Well, when it's dark in the first room, so you open those doors, and the first room is a bunch of brutes, and then the flood are right there too. And I didn't know if it was infinite spawn or not. So like, I tried to kill them the first time I died, and then after that, I was like, all right, f this, I'm just running. Let's go.
I think Halo 2 gets rid of the infinite spawn thing.
like altogether.
I think it's only CE that has the infinite spawns.
Okay. David, did you hang around? Did you clear the areas?
I fought my way through most of it. Yeah, I did. I was having fun with my shotgun.
Yeah.
So, and I knew it was a short mission, so I was like, I'm not in any particular hurry.
I
I
did grab
had the
Go ahead.
active camo skull on, so I was using Chief's active camo quite a bit to
nice.
get through rooms, especially with brutes, because brutes are annoying. So I just active camoed through most of it.
Yeah, the carbine doesn't really work very well on the brutes up close. So
Yeah.
if they're charging,
You got to get those
like, it takes-
headshots.
Yeah, you gotta be pretty precise with it. So that's why I was just doing the kind of my sword shotgun combo. I probably picked up something else throughout, but for the most part, I was at least doing shotgun the entire time. I think it's this next room that's kind of what you're talking about, Krysta, where there's kind of those platforms, right?
Yeah, and it's like kind of circular and there are buggers in there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot
Yeah.
of buggers.
I always go to the left side for whatever reason.
Oh,
I
can you
never
go
go-
the other way? I went left
Yeah,
too.
there-
So you can only go left.
Oh, can you only go left? I thought there
Yeah.
was a platform to go right if you wanted to.
The platform is there, but I don't think you can get to it.
Okay.
I may be full of shit, but I don't think you can actually go to the right.
Yeah, I don't think you can. It looks like you can, but I think only one's active. Cortana chimes in here and says that she's gonna shut down the grav lift after MC gets to the top. Oh wait, that's a little further. Sorry, I'm a little ahead of myself there. But you kind of do make your way around this room, or no, actually. So excuse me. Sorry, revisiting this mission in my mind. Before you get to that room, you do go up a grav lift. That's what happens
Yeah.
because the brutes and flood are fighting down below. So you go up that grav lift, and then Cortana says she's going to kind of stop that from happening, so that you can kind of enter this new room that we were just describing without having to look behind your back. So yeah, this is a cool room. We haven't experienced anything like this. This room in particular sticks in my mind as a Halo 2 experience. You know, it's like when you get to this room, you're like, oh yeah, I remember this. It's pretty unique in Halo 2. You know, they have grav lifts in previous missions, or gravity bridges, I guess, or light bridges. But the way that they pull off this room is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's the drones, and you can kind of just sit back and wait till they do some fighting. Who wins those fights? Do the drones win those fights usually?
Usually, because
I think so, because they can stay away from the Flood.
Yeah.
Just if they fly and hover, they shouldn't be killed.
The Flood can jump really high, but there's also a lot of places for them to fall off. So
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We also have some more kind of conversations. Cortana's talking in the background at this point too. She says there's a construct, because so she's trying to get you to the dreadnought. She says there's a construct trying to stop her, something formidable.
because she's stalling the dreadnought's engines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the dreadnought is connected to High Charity. She's inside High Charity, but that also means she has access to the dreadnought. And something on the dreadnought, an AI, she says, a Forerunner AI, is working against her. So that's
She
interesting
doesn't
to
say
know.
Forerunner AI.
Are you
Which is
sure?
interesting.
No, she
Yeah,
doesn't. The exact quote.
Is it Covenant AI?
Yeah, she calls it a Covenant AI. She
Okay,
says,
Covenant AI.
let me pull it up real quick. I just had it too.
Yeah. you'd say that.
I'll do what I can to slow the launch sequence, but there's something inside the ship, a presence that's fighting back. For a Covenant construct, it's
Yeah.
unusually formidable.
Right. Yep. So that's interesting to note that something's going on within that ship there. Yeah. Then we kind of continue on, and at some point, as we're kind of fighting through these areas, that's where Truth starts to chime in, and he's talking. He's done this on the loudspeaker before, kind of talking to the Covenant. You know, it's probably
He's
on
preaching.
some PAs. Yeah, he's preaching. It's probably on some PAs throughout the city. And he's essentially just saying, we need to fight and defeat the Flood. And, we've beat everybody so far that we've encountered. The Flood are going to be no different. And then you go a little further, and then you start to hear the Gravemind, and he's talking back. So that's a fun kind of discourse to hear as you're progressing through this mission. We pulled up the transcript. You can go look up online. Any interesting lines, Krysta, that you found that might be worth reading off?
Like you said, it's a lot of Truth saying, "We shall not let the Flood consume our holy city. The parasite did not defeat the Forerunners, and it shall not defeat us." Haha, that's funny. Because we know at this point the Forerunners are gone for a reason, because they activated Halo. And just Gravemind is basically just calling out Truth and saying that you are going to die, you are going to suffer, everyone will die. And Gravemind doesn't have access to a PA system, which is interesting.
Yeah.
He's just, as we know, the only way Gravemind could be talking at this point is if he's transferring himself to High Charity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
he's like... You said he's not in the PA.
no.
So how are people hearing him?
True. I think it's
Through the
through,
Flood.
pretty much
Through the Flood.
true,
It's like the Flood are
telepathy
talking
kind of
somehow.
thing.
We see the Flood can actually speak for Gravemind at some point in one of the other games. We can see that.
Mm-hmm.
We can see that the Flood projects his voice through the different Flood creatures. So it might just be wherever the Flood are, the Gravemind's voice is.
Gotcha.
It speaks directly into our mind, though, I think, isn't it?
I think that's later.
Is it? Okay.
I'm not sure if this one's directly into the mind or if it's through the Flood that are surrounding us.
Mm-hmm.
And it might
Okay.
just be there's so much Flood on High Charity that it's just a booming sound coming from everywhere.
Right.
Which could be... We don't know... when it comes to, little minute details like this, we don't actually know that much about the Flood at that point.
Yeah, it's a cool gaming environmental thing that's going on, but they don't explain the specifics.
they can't convey whether only you're hearing the grave mind or everyone's hearing the grave mind, because nothing else but you reacts to it. Not even Cortana really says anything.
Right.
So we don't really know. Another interesting thing is that the Prophet of Truth is saying that Mercy's here with me.
Yeah, right.
Even though Truth basically let him die, he's like, yes, Mercy and I are working to relieve this situation. And then Gravemind's like, we exist together now, 2 corpses in 1 grave. It's like, you're dumb. You're stupid.
I mean, I guess this is the time to talk about it. Like, how terrifying, we've talked about it a little bit, how terrifying is everybody, or terrified is everybody on High Charity, right? So,
Very
So the flood is coming in and infecting everybody, and Truth is trying to preach, nah, everything's all right. And then all of a sudden they're hearing this other thing, Gravemind, talking to them and essentially saying, no, this guy's lying. You know, you guys are all going to get absorbed by the flood. Crazy.
I'm eating you right now.
I mean, honestly, the reason Truth is evacuating to the Dreadnought is because he already knows High Charity is lost. Mm-hmm. He's literally just telling people to fight, to keep fighting.
Do we know?
To buy him time.
Yeah. Do we know how many, I guess Covenant, how many bodies are on High Charity? Have they ever explained that many? Like,
I can look it up because it's in Halo Warfleet. So if you talk nicely amongst yourselves for 2 seconds, I'll pull that book.
Yeah, pull that thing up. That'd be interesting to see. Just the scale of that city. Like I said, it's huge. It's monstrous.
Also, wouldn't Truth be talking to save face for the people who do escape High Charity? Because if he doesn't say anything and just, fucks off, then everybody's going to go against him. But if he's kind of staying and still trying to motivate everyone and tell them that, the great journey is still here, the Forerunners have prevailed, we can prevail, it looks grim, but we can still do it, the people who actually do escape will still be on his side.
Right.
It's a manipulation thing.
Right. He's the head now. He's in charge. It's just him.
He was always in charge, but because the Prophet of Truth had the most power out of all the prophets. Like they like to think that they all have an equal amount, but Truth is the most cunning and the most devious out of all of them. Yeah. Because he's the one who got Regret killed, and he's the one who got Mercy killed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here's some crazy stats for you.
Okay.
High Charity. Its mass is 100 trillion metric tons, in brackets, estimated. Yeah, I'm sure shit that's estimated.
You'd need a big scale.
Its crew, these are the low numbers. Crew are 3 hierarchs, 23.8 million citizens,
Jesus.
7.7 billion menials.
Menials? Those are like workers?
Probably like grunts
those are probably,
and stuff.
Yeah, these kind of the lower races, I imagine.
Did you say billion?
Yeah.
7.7 billion. The troops is 15,000 obedientaries, 290,000 warriors, 2 million thralls. Which is kind of crazy.
So just to put this in perspective, Earth's current population is 7.53 billion people.
Yeah.
In 2017. They have more people on High Charity than on Earth. Like, almost?
Just packed in there, right? Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. And the complement, which is not including the numbers I just read out, is just numbers beyond counting. So there is just an innumerable amount of people on this city. Mm-hmm. It's got a few other things, like it says, dozens of floating city stations house tens of millions in conditions befitting their station within the Covenant's rigid caste system. The Golden City, billions were born, lived, and died in its embrace without ever setting foot on other worlds. It's just an insane...
It's crazy to think that there's more people more aliens on High Charity than on Earth. That's insane. Those are insane numbers. And it's a captive audience. Like, there's no way there are enough ships to get, 8 billion people off of High Charity?
No way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
And they're all, I would imagine,
it's
of a similar brainwash belief. It's like it's like a super cult, ultimate cult, floating.
And while this is happening, the Covenant are having a civil war between the elites and the brutes. So there's crazy fighting going on around the skies of High Charity. So there's nobody getting out.
Yeah, they're
And Truth is in charge now, like we talked about. So there's the 3 prophets. It's down to Truth, and the Covenant Council has been taken out. We've already talked about that. So he's like the only dude that's leading this thing, and now he's obviously has his own crazy intentions, and he has no one else to say that's a bad idea. Now it's just okay. Now everybody's coming with me. Here we go.
Yeah.
Pretty nuts to think about.
High Charity is one of the coolest set pieces in Halo 2. It's just so cool. It's a planet. It's a mobile planet.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, think about those numbers. That's crazy. There's a couple new room types that we're kind of enter now. So I guess back to the game. There's a couple new room types that are, flood infested. I don't know how to describe them. They're kind of like they're big rooms it's almost like there's some rocky structures that you got to climb around.
Yeah. Well, it's part of the planet that High Charity's built
I guess that makes sense. Yep. And so there's a few of those types of rooms that you got to get through. Flood and Brute are involved. There's some jackals in there as well, and you're just kind of climbing around in there, and then you get to a point where you get Cortana says that these rooms are the Prophet's private quarters, their inner sanctum. So that's kind of when you get into this next little area. You go up this elevator to get to that area. Did you notice kind of the little button on that in the middle of that elevator? Kind of looks like a face. Did you guys see that at all?
No.
No.
Were you? How many beers did you have when you played this?
I don't know. It was like a circle, and it had 2 little circles that kind of looked like I don't know. Anyway, I thought it was
seeing faces in Halo. I think we need to take a break. We need to step back a little bit.
Right. Yep. Colin's starting to see things in Halo. All right, so we get to the top of this elevator, and then this is like this big room. They don't know you're there yet, obviously, because like there's some grunts just kind of trolling around. Take them out, and then on the other side of like this kind of fallen structure in the middle of the room is where there's a brutes, and there's a honor guard brute, he's a pretty big pain in the butt, especially on legendary.
Yeah.
I had problems with this room a little bit because I feel like I just kind of, at this point, we talked about that we're just kind of sprinting through the mission. I decided to just, I died to the honor guard brute right away, and then the next time around I was like, all right, let's just see if I can sprint through this area. And there's a door on the other end, and it didn't open for me. I don't know if
it doesn't open it won't open until you kill a certain amount of dudes. I think specifically you can run a bit, but like what I've done, and I did this in Legendary as well. If you hide down the very back when you first drop in, eventually the flood come in, and then the 2 groups fight each other. And it can be easier then because they thin the ranks.
Yeah.
To throw grenades in and all that kind of stuff. And at this point, I had a rocket launcher, so I just rocketed 2 rockets into a group, killed like almost everything in the room. So that's kind of things you can do, and
that's the strategy for the higher levels. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And there's like those like pylons that are around you. You can destroy the generators underneath them, and then they collapse. They can create cover for you and stuff like that. And
oh, really?
Yeah, you can kind of blow those things up and stuff. They'll kill enemies if they land on them, but you have to time it really nice to do that. Enemies normally move out of the way, but
I had a problem because I active camoed and went straight for the door, and I'm like, the door's not opening. Right. I was like, oh shit, I gotta kill everyone here. So I started killing them all, and then the flood came in. I'm like, oh great, now I have to kill the flood too.
Yeah,
I think when the flood come in, you can get through the door. I think the door will open then. I'm not sure, but I think you can do it that way.
At that point, I just cleared the room and then went through the door.
It's a hard room because if you are trying to take your time, and all of a sudden you realize the flood are behind you, you're like, oh god, here we go.
Well, then you're flanked, and then it's like, shit.
Then you're effed, right, exactly. So then this next room is the room with that little, like, the energy sword in the middle, right?
Yeah.
That's a cool-ass room. I think that is the inner sanctum.
This is the Prophet's quarters.
Inner sanctum, yeah.
Yeah.
It's their personal dressing room.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
With the energy sword in the middle, and this is the terminal. So the terminal's off to the side there. We'll talk about that later. Did the terminal work for you guys, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did?
Did the Halo channel not work? Did it give you a glitch?
It's the first time I've had that happen.
I've had it happen before.
You have? Yeah, it's a bummer.
The Halo channel, like, was like a big
Krista,
thing, and then nothing happened.
We're not going to shut an
I know, but like it bugs me.
It's too easy.
It bugs me that I'm forced to tab out to watch the terminals.
Yeah.
I hate it. Every time, because then it takes a second to load, and then it takes a second to load you back into the game. It's really annoying.
Yeah, it was. I think it was a good idea in theory. It just we probably talked about it before, but yeah,
we've talked about it.
Didn't quite pull it
loads.
off. Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. I mean, there's some. I think almost everything on there you can get somewhere else, so you don't really have to go to the Halo channel. But if you're kind of playing the mission or the game and doing the terminals, like you got to pop that up, which means you also have to be online.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks for the people that are playing offline.
Well, and all the videos are on YouTube, and they're really way easier to get to.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I can never get to anything I want on the Halo channel.
Yeah.
Anyway, but this room is significant. It's very interesting.
Right.
We're not going to say too much more, but
very very cool room.
Just take a good look at the room. You'll find some stuff. You'll find some stuff.
That's right. You'll also find an energy lift off to the side. And if you're playing on Legendary, the Iron Skull comes flying at you if you look up.
Really?
Oh, is it?
It just kind of... Oh, that's really fun.
Yeah,
so it's just
do you have to
lift.
grab it at a certain time, is it?
Yep.
To time your grab?
Yeah,
All right,
so it must be... I don't know if it's... It must... I guess if you're heading up, maybe it's just like hovering in the middle of the lift. But yeah, you have to like look up, and then it'll come... You'll be going up the lift, and you have to grab it at the right time.
That's so much fun. I love that. That's great.
I think they were kind of running out of ideas.
Well, I think it's kind of a fun,
but it's good.
Fun one. Yeah, it makes it interesting.
Because if you're not paying attention, if you're like kind of paying attention,
then you
like, whoa,
pass it. You're like, wait a second.
Once you're at the top of the lift, Cortana says that the Covenant were using the Dreadnought as an energy source, which we kind of knew already, or maybe we kind of talked about, I think. And that Truth is uncoupling it from the city. So that's like the final death of High Charity, right? Is like the
High
power
Charity
source
wouldn't break apart, but
no, but it's like all of a sudden they don't have any power either. Like if they were I mean, maybe there's other sources around there, but like they were using this ancient ship to power, whatever they're doing.
I wonder if that would like shut off life support and gravity, artificial gravity.
Exactly.
Because the Flood don't need oxygen to live. They're not oxygen-based life forms. They can live off. They can live in anything.
They just need body mass, right?
Yeah. So the Flood could literally wait for people to suffocate and then gather the body mass.
That's crazy to think about. Yeah. So she chimes in, says that, and then you kind of have this big room to get through. I think on the higher difficulties, you probably have to clear it out. I just kind of sprinted for the end.
I active camoed to the very end and got this cutscene. It was great. I'm like, what? There's way too many people here.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go. Because they don't notice you either. Like, you can sit there and wait for the cutscene to click and no one will notice you.
Right. Yeah. Because you're going to have people right on your left and right, and the cutscene will come. But this mission is a short mission, and it's made shorter by you just kind of feeling like you have to sprint through it.
Yeah. Well, you're trying to catch the ship before it launches.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, Cortana's trying to buy you as much time as she can, but it's fleeting. Time is fleeting in this. Which is kind of cool, because not a lot of missions with time constraints make you feel like you have to get there fast. And this one really does. So, like, you can take your time, but it does a good job at keeping kind of the pressure on you. Mm-hmm. Without having
putting
a stupid
timer up in front of the screen.
Because timers are really annoying, but it's nice to have, people talking and saying, I'm trying my best, you gotta get there, he's gonna launch, and then humanity's doomed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now we're at the cutscene. Krysta, do you want to do cutscene?
Yep. So Chief, above you is this huge beam of light coming from the Dreadnought, which seems to be... Is it just part of the power system?
I think she talked about like a cargo bay or something like that at one point. So maybe it's something like that.
I think it's just like a transport beam for like beaming in things.
Is that what
like,
Truth probably used then?
I'd imagine.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's like, I know Chief jumped into it himself, but there's probably like a compartment or a thing that you stand in and it travels along the beam. Do you know what I mean? It's probably not just you step inside it. And because I very much got the impression that Chief was kind of like hitching a ride.
Yeah.
Yep.
By jumping into the beam and getting shot across.
So yeah, before he jumps in, Cortana says, you know, good luck with your mission. I hope you succeed, kind of stuff. And then Chief's like, kind of, you know, I'm gonna come back for you. And Cortana says the famous line, "Don't make a girl a promise if you know you can't keep it." Mm-hmm. She's kind of talking about her own mortality, but she's also talking about, you have better things to think about than coming back for me. Like,
Yeah,
you gotta think about.
It's a nod to their relationship. They haven't really covered that in these games that much. I mean, other than kind of like the witty banner, and they almost feel like I don't know. It's like a brother sister old couple relationship, right? Where they're just kind of chummy.
Yeah.
And you know,
They
this is
trust
kind of the
each other.
first little moment where she shows a little bit of emotion, like, all right, we're separate. You go do your thing. I'll do my thing, and you know, let's hope for the best.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, then Chief jumps into the beam, which is super cool. I love seeing him travel across High Charity, and then just barely makes it into the Dreadnought. The Dreadnought launches from High Charity, which is also really cool. I love seeing the Dreadnought slowly rise from High Charity, and then fades into a slip space portal.
Yeah.
The end.
Chief is
Fades
gone.
to black, level ends.
Right. Where'd Chief go?
Game ends.
Where'd he go?
Well, he's going to Earth. Yeah.
Well, I know, but yeah, it's like, all right, okay. So you know you're at the end of the game, essentially, you're close to the end of the game. We have one more mission. We already know that. But yeah, that's Chief's last
Hurrah.
part of Halo 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we didn't know yet, which was the massive controversy at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well,
Which
and
we'll
we'll
talk
talk
about
about
next
at the end of, because there is a weird thing with how the game ends, but and we'll talk about that next episode. But all in all, like, today the game is great. When it first came out, people were mad about Arbiter, about, you know, Chief and Arbiter sharing the story and stuff like that. Very similar to kind of what's happened with the most recent installment of Halo 2, where Chief shares the spotlight.
Of Halo 5, you mean?
Halo 5, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's the people that are new to Halo are probably fine with it because they know there's a few more games to play.
Yeah.
But at the time, you're like, oh, okay, now what? Like, and you've thrown all this lore at us, you've thrown all this intrigue, and then you're just giving us this cliffhanger. Like, that's rough, right?
But Arbiter was really necessary to the game to get the Covenant's perspective on everything.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah, I
for the
agree.
Guys, we gotta save this to the end for the next show.
Yeah, that's true. We do got to save this for the wrap up, but it's all very important. And this level is really short, sweet, but it has a lot of emotion in it between Chief and Cortana. Mm-hmm. And it sets up a huge set piece. Like, it sets up the rest of the game, the last mission that's in the game, and it's a good.
Yeah.
This is a good mission. It's a good hurrah for Chief.
Good, short, tight mission. All right, so why don't we do the terminal first? I did post a community question, so if Dave, if you want to go find that in the Facebooks, and I think I posted it in Discord as well.
God
And
damn it,
then
Colin.
we will get out of here.
Hooray! And then we'll
right.
get on to the last mission, yeah?
Terminal time, what do you got?
Terminal time. When I was going through this terminal, I was confused because all of the information that's presented in this terminal, I feel has already been in all the other terminals.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just it's almost like it's a summary of all of the Arbiter terminals.
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost like there's no new information in this. Arbiter, you know, it talks about the Arbiters, it talks about them being disgraced. It talks about Thiel Vidam and his upbringing, his conquests, like how great of a shipmaster he was, his, you know, big blunder with Halo, and then him becoming the Arbiter. This has already been covered multiple times.
Yeah,
like, this is the
right.
whole game.
Yeah, they're kind of reaching here at the end, I think.
They are, and I feel like they could have done something interesting. They could have done, like, the shipmaster or something like that. Or they just could have talked about how High Charity's structured or something. Because we don't know that much about High Charity at this point. They could have gone gone around like the inner ring of the city, the outer ring of the city, you know, the population, stuff like that. And it could be like if someone, you know, attacked High Charity, it'd be disastrous or something like that. But instead we get this. I was watching it, I'm like, this is no new information. It's kind of disappointing. But
yeah, I think that would have been interesting if they just talk about the scale of High Charity a little bit more to put that in perspective. You know, otherwise you have to seek that information out. Otherwise,
yeah. It's in a book. You have to get the book to understand it, or go to the wiki. But it would have been nice for some of these terminals that go over, you know, what the other terminals have gone over, and like replaced it with like talking about the set pieces that we see throughout the game.
Well, I think if you
Halo,
recall, recall the very beginning of Halo 2 anniversary, they added in we talked about it briefly about the lock stuff, and Arbiter is there and he's in his gold fancy armor, so they added that to the beginning, and then all these terminals are pretty much all Arbiter focused, so they're really setting up like how big of a deal Arbiter is. That's like the whole focus.
And I also feel like maybe they didn't need to make every single terminal about Arbiter.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
I agree with you, but I'm just saying that was clearly their focus.
Because there are 15 terminals. Like, the Arbiter doesn't have 15 terminals worth of history. Especially Theo Vidam. I mean, you could talk about every single one of his conquests, but at some point they become all the same. You know, he goes down to a planet, he glasses it, he wins, humanity dies at that planet.
I mean, they did the...
they did one of them.
They did a couple where the taming of the grunts.
Hunters.
Or the hunters and the...
Yeah, and the Grunt Rebellion.
They did a couple of that things, but yeah.
But that's more... Honestly, that's more Covenant history than anything else, even though an Arbiter was responsible for those things. It was just... Like, the terminals in this game are just kind of strange in that regard, just because they're trying to focus on the Arbiter but still branch out to different things, but then some of them are just going over stuff we already know.
Yeah.
And I feel like
they're well done, and if you're not playing the games, or if you skip the terminals, they're fun to go watch and absorb this information. But to your point, it's not just it doesn't add a whole lot along the way. Once you get a couple terminals, you kind of get the gist of them all.
Yeah. I feel like Halo CE did a bit of a better job at setting up the story than Halo 2 did with their terminals.
Yep.
I feel like all in all, Halo CEs are a little more engaging. Mm-hmm. But they're still good. That we love the terminals. We love having the extra lore in all of them, and we want to see more of them, of course. But this one just was kind of a okay one.
Yeah, I agree. I think they mentioned the EE thing at the end. Don't they talk about the Vadam family and how...
Yeah, they talk about how it's a very important... Oh, no, they don't. They talk about the... It's like a royal family or a...
I think you add the EE to the end after you reach a certain level or honor within the Covenant. So that's why the EE is kind of crammed in there. But he comes from the house of Vadam. Yeah,
which is a high-ranking house in the structure of the Sangheili clans or houses. So I mean, he comes from basically it's the story of him just kind of conquering the world. I mean, he comes from a great house. He was a great warrior. He became head of a Covenant fleet really early on. He made one mistake, and then his whole life falls apart.
Yeah, right. Granted, a big mistake.
I mean,
he was in charge.
It wasn't necessarily his fault, because the prophets didn't give him any information on what the Halo was or anything like that. They like to keep people in the dark. And he had no idea that Master Chief wanted to explode the thing.
But I think the Covenant would have rather him... or the hierarchs would have rather him died trying to protect the Halo versus
100%
skedaddling, right?
But he was leading forces from space.
Yeah.
He just happened to be out in space when it happened. Mm-hmm. But the Covenant had a hard time in Halo CE. They were fighting 2 different wars on 2 different fronts. Mm-hmm. Master Chief almost had it easy because he was mostly alone. He could kind of, stick to one thing, and no one would be able to kill. They'd either have to kill him or capture him to figure out what he was going to do.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Very cool. We're almost there. Let's talk about community quick, and then we will wrap and get into the final mission, Halo 2. What did the community say?
Okay, you need to say a bunch of stuff because Colin Perkins wrote in Facebook, "What's the first thing Master Chief does when boarding the Dreadnought at the end of Halo 2? Wrong answers only."
Yeah.
So we got a
keep it
funny
light.
one from Colin. Timothy Welch says clogs the first toilet he can find.
Yep.
Colin agrees.
Totally.
This is exactly where he was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Forerunner tech, though, I doubt these toilets clog. Well said, Joseph.
You're literally just going to the bathroom and the bowl is just like a slip space portal.
Pretty much. David Elwood said Teabag's Prophet of Truth.
Ooh.
Shocking. As I recall, there's some witty banter between Truth and Chief. It all ends with a dance-off. And that's
Nice.
Patrick
It's like
Fox.
Guardians
Tyler
of the
says,
Galaxy.
takes off his helmet and cracks a beer. Everyone knows he's not allowed to do that. Woman 117 push-ups and a game of solitaire. I like it, Matthew. Shrek says eats a burrito. Annabelle says goes on private mode. Ugh. Brad Tharp says curl up in his Cortana body pillow and cries himself to sleep after losing her to grave mind tentacles. Some deep. And we got some Discord answers. We got finish the fight from Physical Sky 128. And Matt says use the bathroom. Dude's been holding them for a month. Everyone knows they don't need to hold it. Those suits recycle all that shit.
Yeah.
Literally.
It is explained at some point.
But it's still
gross.
like, it still probably like feels like you're peeing your pants, which is a little weird, you know?
Well, I mean, the Spartans can't take off their armor by themselves. Like, they need a machine with a huge arm to take off their armar. So, I mean,
Yeah.
either their boots are going to be really sloshy or there's a way to expel that shit.
Halsey thought of everything. She's great.
Just they're walking around in their boots and all you hear is like a squish sound. Squish, 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 squish.
The
Like,
squishy
Arbiter
socks.
has the clomp, clomp, clomps, but Master Chief has the squish, squish, squish.
That's nasty, Krysta. That's not canon. I don't like this.
Merry
good.
Christmas, everyone.
All right, if you want to find out what actually happens, there is a comic book that you can read. Halo Uprising, written by Brian Michael Bendis, who is a very good, famous comic book writer. It describes what happens between Halo 2 and Halo 3 with Chief. Now that Chief is aboard the Dreadnought. We'll talk about more probably in the wrap-up, but I figured I'd drop that here as well.
Yay!
Yay.
Anything else you guys want to talk about before we get out?
I can't wait for the next mission.
Mm-hmm. We're almost there.
Almost there. I mean, there's a couple of random bits of trivia. This level is the only time Master Chief encounters the Flood in Halo 2. It is the only level in the game with no allies aiding the player. It is the shortest playable campaign level. Thought those are pretty kind of cool. There is apparently a dead body of a brute that looks just like Tartarus that can be found in this level in one of the many rooms. He has the exact same shoulder piece, which is very easy to recognize. So I've never known that, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, a weird thing. It's also the only level where no living Sangheili are encountered.
Huh.
And I found that quite interesting, kind of cool little bits of trivia about the end of the game.
Very cool. All right, I think that'll do it. That'll do it for our debriefing of High Charity from Halo 2. On the next episode, we will be covering The Great Journey. We are also going to be doing a wrap-up show afterwards. So we'll cover Great Journey, the mission, and then we'll kind of talk about Halo 2 as an entity. And since this is, the third game now that we've played, we might kind of compare it to the other games as well. So look forward to that. Send us your thoughts at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. Until next time, evolved.
Evolved.
Hooray! So 50 minutes,
Hooray.
basically.
Longer than expected.